Hello, everyone, and welcome tonight. Thank you for joining me. It's Sunday night, August the 9th, and my name is Glenn Rawson. Now, again, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully something happens tonight that will be a benefit to you. Now, speaking of benefits, I just wanted to thank all of you that have signed up to be VIPs and help financially support what we're doing, publishing of the books and the spreading of these stories. Many thanks to that. For those VIPs, the ones who sign up and renew that every year, you get free books, you get discounts on tickets. A lot of things come to you, and I'm grateful for your help. And also for all those of you that are free subscribers, the ones that are not paying anything and getting the free stories. Thank you for receiving those, and I hope you spread them to somebody else. These stories are like a word of inspiration. They're meant to brighten someone's day, so I hope you share them. Now, one more time, October 5th of this year, we're going back out onto the Pioneer Trail. A lot of you have done treks, summer treks, Martin Handcart Company and things like that. But this is a deeper experience and more of an immersion. We cover more places on the trail. We have time to talk about more stories of the experience of the Martin and Willie and other handcart and trail pioneers. This tour we're going to take is only 4 days. We'll be gone. We'll leave October 5th out of Salt Lake, and we'll go all the way out into Nebraska, and then we'll come back. It's a wonderful experience, and I hope you would be willing to come. I understand if you can't. There's time and there's financial constraints, but if you can do it, come with me. Come out onto the Pioneer Trail and experience what the pioneers went through. If you're interested in that tour, well, call 801-541-9760. Again, that's 801-541-9760. Also, just in case you might be curious, it's really hot and well, dry and not very pleasant right now. Have you forgotten an inversion and the cold temperatures of January and the snow and the gray and the bleak days? And do you remember that? You know, it's not that far away. It's coming back. December, January, February, all of that bleak, cold, gray winter weather. Can you imagine yourself right now escaping it, planning ahead and escaping it? Going with me to Hawaii for a week, 8 days in Hawaii, on the beaches, the historical sites, while we tour and learn and soak up the sun and escape the freezing cold and the inversions. That tour goes in the end of January. If you're interested, go to glennrawsonstories.com and we'll help you with it. All right, for tonight, my friends, will you have a prayer in your heart for me, for each other, for anyone who might be needing a little bit of extra help? This last week, I spoke at a fireside with missionaries in Logan. And according to invitation, they wanted me to talk about subjects related to Cache Valley. It seemed that night that my thoughts were surrounding the Logan Temple. Some of these stories you've heard, maybe some of them you haven't. From 1882 to the issuance of the Manifesto in 1890, the United States government waged war against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with the intent and for the purpose of stopping plural marriage at all costs. United States Marshals hunted church members relentlessly, especially from 1885 to 1890. This was called the Raids. And those that were caught, well, they were imprisoned, federal penitentiary. Samuel Ross Kelly served as the recorder in the Logan Temple from the time it was dedicated in 1884. He was charged with protecting the records of the church, which, of course, those marshals wanted. Why? Well, tell them just exactly who to arrest. This story is taken from the book, The Logan Temple, The First 100 Years by Nolan P. Olson. He describes, quote, "Two deputy marshals arrived at the temple door one day to find it locked, so they could not gain entrance. Brother Ross Kelly went out to talk with them. They were told that there were no records available to show them. Brother Ross Kelly told them goodbye and locked the door. Well, the lawmen knew that polygamous marriages were being performed and did not like being denied access to the records. They immediately wired for help, and the next day, the head of the United States Marshals for Utah and a whole posse of deputies arrived. This time, they demanded in the name of the United States government that the records be given to them. They were told, again, there were no records available. The marshal then said, 'We know you're doing polygamous marriages and that these records are available. We know you have them and we're going to have them. We will burn the temple door down or even destroy it entirely, but what you comply with our request.' Well, Brother Ross Kelly told them goodbye and locked the door on them again. But he was very worried. And he spent the next 8 or 10 hours in constant prayer, asking the Lord to help him preserve the records, that no harm should come to him or to the people concerned, and that the temple records should not fall into the hands of the United States Marshals. Well, he went out, meaning he left the temple under cover of darkness, to visit one of his families in the 7th Ward area. He was up well before daybreak the next morning, dressed in his oldest clothes, put a corncob pipe in his mouth, an axe on his shoulder, as if he were going up the canyon to work, and walked right up the middle of the road, whistling a happy tune. As he walked toward the temple and crossed a bridge, 2 men stepped out to stop him. He immediately struck a match to light his pipe, which, of course, had nothing in it. And he said, 'Good morning,' and walked right on past the men. Evidently, they supposed he was not a Mormon polygamist, quoting, just a woodcutter going to the canyon. Well, when Brother Ross Kelly reached the front door of the temple, there stood 2 giant men, dressed in complete armor, with headdress, breastplate, spears, and full regalia. They gave him a friendly nod as he passed, unlocked the door, and entered the temple. As he neared his office, there stood 2 more large men dressed in full armor. And as he went to the record vaults on the 3rd floor, he came to 2 other huge men, both dressed in full armor. As soon as he was sure the records were safe, he asked who they were, and they told him, "We are Nephite warriors. We are here to answer your prayers." They then told him not to worry, that they would not allow the temple to be injured or the records to be destroyed in any way. End of quote. When Brother Ross Kelly related that incident to President John Taylor, he was told that they were indeed Nephite soldiers, and that this was not the first time they had been assigned to protect the temple and its people. Angels watch over this work. The Lord is with us. I testify, we do not live far removed from the eyes of heaven. Next story. Sometimes, my friend, it is not what you say, but how you say it. And when your desire is to bring souls to Christ through the written word, every word can be powerful. Perhaps that's why Isaiah is at once so difficult and yet so rewarding to read. In Isaiah 48:18, he said, "Oh, that thou hadst hearkened to my commandments, Then had thy peace been as a river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea. End of quote. What does that mean? Well, if anyone has ever wondered why they should subject themselves to the disciplined life of an obedient Christian, go, sit by a great river and watch it. Just as that ever-flowing river is a peaceful, tranquil place, so the Lord's peace will continually flow unto and into you if you keep his commandments. And for those who have committed sins, terrible sins even, Isaiah wrote, "Come now, and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool." Isaiah 1:18. Now, like you, I've seen the brilliant and vivid hue of scarlet and crimson, and I know just how effectively the color red can stain. But then again, have you ever stood in fresh fallen snow on a bright sunny day, so gloriously white you couldn't even look at it? I have. Isaiah could have said, by the atonement, you can be forgiven. But when he said, from scarlet to snow, from crimson to wool, that metaphor conveys so much more power and depth. Jesus Christ is mighty to save, and his atonement defies all earthly description in power and scope. And again, Isaiah said, he giveth power, God giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increaseth strength. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Isaiah 40:31. For those of you who feel weak, powerless, have you ever watched an eagle take to flight? They're a huge bird, and yet they make it look so easy. They soar through the heavens and it seems effortlessly. I've watched them high up in the sky, riding the air currents. Not only are they great power, but they are grace and beauty. Now to those overwhelmed by a sense of their own weakness and inadequacy, God is power, and he can make you as powerful as the eagle taking flight, as that individual who can run and never gets tired. And again, to those of you that are burdened down with heavy burdens, maybe feeling alone, overwhelmed, Isaiah said, quoting the Lord, "But Zion said, the Lord hath forsaken me, and my Lord hath forgotten me." To which Isaiah responded, "Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee. Behold, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands." End of quote. Isaiah 49:14-15. That is awesome. That statement overwhelms me. It's one thing to say that the Lord loves you, but it's quite another to say that it is more likely that a mother will forget the child nursing at her breast before the Lord forgets you. Now that is commitment to you and compassion. Sheep and shepherds Snow and rain, wolves and lambs, mountains and valleys, voices and dust. Stop. When you read Isaiah, stop. Think about the metaphors, and you will then understand why Jesus himself said, "Great are the words of Isaiah." Next story. Once again, back to the Logan Temple. How valuable is our work for the dead? How important is it to the dead? What does this work mean to them, either now or later? Well, please consider this story that comes from the family records of the Hale family, and it's again in Nolan Olson's book, The Logan Temple, The First 100 Years. This is the story. In April 1888, the Hale family moved to Cache Valley, bringing their voluminous genealogical records with them, and began an extensive temple activity. At this time, they arranged with Samuel Roskelley, the recorder, to prepare all the sheets for temple work. He kept names in the temple continuously from then until about 1903, when his health began to fail. His eyesight was poor, and he decided he had to give up all that record-keeping work. So he brought the Hale records to sacrament meeting one night and gave them to Alma Hale and told him it would be necessary to get someone else to take over the work. Now, Jonathan Hale, one of the members of the family, wrote, quote, "During the following week, Father was very depressed and worried all the time and was hardly able to work or eat. He could not decide what to do, for neither he nor any of the Hale family knew how to proceed with the work. A great deal of information had been gathered, and the family felt a great responsibility to complete the work. The whole family made it a matter of prayer and fasting for the week. That next Sunday, Brother Roskelley came to Father Alma Hale and said, quote, 'Bring the records back to me. I have to finish them.' Friday evening, as I was returning home from the temple near Hyde Park, a messenger on a white horse appeared by the side of my buggy and said he wanted me to finish the Hale record. He assured me that the work was done right and that it was all being accepted. He said thousands of the Hale family were anxious that the work go on. I explained that I was too busy to do any more record work and that my eyesight and health would not permit it. Then the messenger made me this promise, that if I would continue, the Lord would bless me with health and strength, my eyesight would be good, and the way would be open, so I would have the necessary time to do the work. He stayed by my side until I finally promised to do it, and then blessed me and disappeared." End quote. Well, when Brother Roskelley described this messenger to Alma Hale answered, "What? That was my own father, Jonathan Harriam Hale, the first of the Hales to join the church in 1834. He died in 1847 at winter quarters." When Brother Roskelley finally finished the Hale family records, he said that the greatest load he ever carried was lifted off his shoulders. He made a promise to a heavenly being, and he couldn't rest until the work was completed. He went home that very night and took off his glasses and never wore them again. He enjoyed much better health and found more time for the work than he had hoped for. Near the end of it, the Hale family had a week-long reunion in the temple about 1905. That's when they completed the last baptism and last endowment, and then on Friday afternoon, the last sealing was done for the 4,000 family members of the Hale family. Well, that evening, as President Mariner W. Merrill, the Logan Temple president, left the temple and neared Smithfield that night on his way to Richmond, he turned, as was his custom, to bid the temple goodbye. And as he did so, his heart just about jumped out of his body. The temple was on fire. But he looked at it for a few minutes and was satisfied that it wasn't fire. There were no red flames licking upward. The whole temple was filled with glory and light. The outside of the building shone with the pale pink glow. All the windows were illuminated. Everyone in the neighborhood turned out and gathered to watch the phenomenon and said that not only that, they could hear a heavenly choir singing for nearly 2 hours. Everyone marveled at the sight, especially now when you consider that there were no electric lights in 1905 in the Logan Temple and would not be for another 10 years. The same thing happened the following night, with all the rooms and the whole building lit up and a heavenly choir singing. President Merrill knew that a very special heavenly manifestation had been received. When he reported the incident to President Wilford Woodruff, the president asked what special work had been done in the temple. He was told of the unusual activity of the Hale family and how they'd accomplished so much in such a little time. President Woodruff said the Hale and Boynton families had been permitted to come from the other side to sing and rejoice and celebrate their deliverance in the Logan Temple. End of quote. Let's take a break. I think about you all week long, always thinking about what story to share next. I hope you are well. And I really, really hope that my efforts and that of my team are doing some good, that it's helping somebody find some inspiration, peace, and the will to go on. God bless you. I want to mention this one more time. I'm going to Peru in November, me and my wife. I'd like you to come with me. This isn't a tour for tourists. This is a tour of service. We're going down to serve the people of Peru. I would really like you to come. The cost is so minimal, I hardly dare to tell you. A plane flight and $500 for a week's opportunity to serve, to give, and to love someone else. I've been studying love all week long. And I've realized that the two greatest commandments are to love God and to love your fellow man. And the best way to love God is to love your fellow man. And love isn't what you say. It isn't even so much what you feel. Love, as God defines it, is what you do and how you present yourself to others and help them. So with that in mind, I'm inviting you to come with me to Peru. If you're interested, go to peruhope.com. Well, we've celebrated America 250, and our country is now, our Declaration of Independence is now 250 years old. The book I wrote, The God of This Land, Stories of the American Founding, well, it's been astonishing how well that book has been received. Before we stop talking about the greatness of America and the celebration, patriotic celebration of our birthday, I'm inviting you one more time, if you haven't read it, it's a quick read, but a powerful one. It's called The God of This Land, Stories of the American Founding. You can get a paperback copy at glenrawsonstories.com. Next story. This next story is personal, so forgive me. But it's aimed at those of you like me who feel like you can just never be good enough. You know the standard of what you're supposed to be ye therefore perfect. But you know not only are you not there, you're not even close. And as far as you can see down the road in the future, you're not going to be anywhere close to that. Well, this story is for you. I was just a wee little boy, short and small for my age. At the time, we were living on a ranch in the mountains of central Idaho on Hayden Creek. One summer evening, the whole family, it seems, we were together in the pickup in the upper pastures of the ranch. Now, I was just a wee little shaver, so I don't remember too clearly, but what I remember is that in our journey that night, we had to cross over to the other side of the stream. Dad got out of the pickup, walked across the stream to the other side, and opened up the gate. And then he told me to slide over into the driver's seat and drive the pickup across the stream and through the gate. Oh boy, I was excited. I loved to drive pickups, tractors. I even loved the horse to drive that. I was so excited. It was my first time that I can remember being able to drive. Now, I was so short and small, I could barely see over the steering wheel, let alone see over the steering wheel and reach the clutch at the same time. But I had watched Dad do it many times, and he made it look so easy. I could do this. So I slid over, pushed in the clutch, put it in gear. But when I let out the clutch, I killed the engine. Dad told me to try it again. I did. And I killed it again. Somehow there was it was that speed at which the clutch came out that I just couldn't get that figured out. At Dad's encouragement, I tried again and again and again. And I killed the engine every time. Dad kept encouraging me, but it was getting dark and I just couldn't get it. Finally, Dad came over the stream and drove the truck through the gate. I had failed, and I felt awful. Dad had confidence in me, and I'd let him down, or so it seemed at the time. Well, I didn't quit, and neither did Dad. He gave me more opportunities. I wanted to drive. I loved to drive. As I said, everything from fast horses, motorcycles, and finally big rigs over the highway. I was that little red-haired, freckle-faced kid who would sit at the side of the two-lane road with my arm draped over my dog and watch the big logging trucks come rumbling down the canyon past our house. I thought they were the coolest thing ever, and I dreamed of the day when I could drive something like that. And you know what? That day came. I spent more than 35 years driving those big trucks. I loved those big trucks. Big trucks, heavy weight, gears, and powerful engines. I didn't drive trucks because I had to by occupational default. I drove trucks because I wanted to. I loved it. I loved the freedom. I loved the open road. I loved everything about it. Now, at the end of that career, it strikes me as ironic that the little boy who couldn't shift the gears, couldn't let the clutch out, has now shifted gears an incalculable number of times and gotten fairly good at it. Yeah, I still grind a gear every now and then, but I'm much more skilled than that first summer night on the ranch at Hayden Creek. And so it goes with you, with life, and with perfection. I believe with our character, it will be just as Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, that which we persist in doing becomes easier. Not that the task itself has become easier, but that our ability to perform it has improved. And if you couple that with faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, then perfection is a process. We keep trying to copy his perfection, hone our spiritual skills until that day when by his grace, his kindness, his tutoring, and our persistent practice, we are like him and we shall see him as he is. But for right now, do you think he's really all that surprised that you and I are struggling to overcome? Not a bit. Be patient, especially with yourself. You and I are a work in progress, but progress we are making. Back to the temple. In 1936, Elder Rudger Clausen, the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, shared the following story. I quote, "On one occasion, he said, I heard the late Apostle Mariner W. Merrill, president of the Logan Temple, relate this extraordinary incident. He was sitting in his office one morning, he said, when he noticed from the window a company of people coming up the hill to the temple. As they entered the temple grounds, they presented rather a strange appearance, not only in dress, but in their mode of travel. Some were riding on horses, others were in conveyances, and still others were afoot. He wondered who they could be, as he was not looking for a company of such size that particular morning. They dismounted from their horses, stepped down from their conveyances, put their animals under the shade, and walked about complacently as if they had a perfect right to be there. A little later, a person unknown to Brother Merrill entered the room. Brother Merrill said to him, 'Who are you? And who are these people who have come up and taken possession of the temple grounds unannounced?' He answered and said, 'I am Satan, and these are my people.' Brother Merrill then said, 'What do you want? Why have you come here?' Satan replied, 'I don't like the work that's going on in this temple and feel that it should be discontinued. Will you stop it?' Brother Merrill answered and said emphatically, 'No, we will not stop it. The work must go on.' 'Since you refuse to stop it, I will tell you what I propose to do,' the adversary said. 'I will take these people, my followers, and distribute them throughout this temple district, and will instruct them to whisper in the ears of people, persuading them not to go to the temple, and thus bring about a cessation of your temple work.' And Satan then withdrew." President Merrill, commenting on this strange interview with the evil one, said that for quite a period of time, the spirit of indifference to temple work seemed to take possession of the people, and very few people came to the house of the Lord. The presumption was that Satan had carried out his threat, which caused a temporary lull in temple work. And Elder Clausen concluded, "It is not to be wondered at that Satan, who is the enemy of all righteousness, is displeased with temple work." End of quote. That comes from the Deseret News, December 12th, 1936. My dear friends, just as any voice that tells you to pray, just as any voice that tells you not to pray comes from the evil one, so too, any voice that persuades you not to attend the temple or neglect that work, it too does not come from God, but from lower reaches. Last story, and this one has been on my mind a great deal. And just so you know, I'm not in a hurry to die. I've knocked on that door close enough. I'm not in a hurry. But when I do die, I would like to die right. I firmly believe that we will all live again after we die. Therefore, what can I do now to best prepare for that eternity that's just across the threshold of a veil that grows thinner every day? Okay, what can I do to get ready to die right? Do you remember when Jesus said of that moment of judgment after we die, that he would set the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left? Matthew 25:33. Well, it's a given that you and I want to be among those found on his right hand, the hand of favor, right? I want his light, his life, and love more than anything, as do you. So, what is it then that these faithful sons and daughters have done that have so won the Savior's gratitude and favor that he puts them on his right hand and takes them to heaven? Again, what is it that we can do to be the most prepared to meet him? And this is the answer. Given in Matthew chapter 25, Jesus said, "For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me." End of quote. Now, according to the scripture, the faithful will hear all these things, and they will wonder, "When did we do these things for you, Lord?" And he will answer, "Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me." What is it? Ye have done it unto me. Well, it is those simple things, kindly acts of ministering every day and every moment of your life. It's things as minimal as giving away a smile, holding a door, giving a moment of attention to someone that just needs you. It's giving our time, our talents, our means, our simple acts of compassion and love and kindness to the people we encounter every single day. They are deeds of love and compassion given especially to the most needy and vulnerable, those deemed the least in society. Now, I said it earlier, the two greatest commandments are to love God and love your fellow men. But when you love and serve your fellow men, you are loving and serving God. Please note that everything Jesus emphasized here was love in action for our neighbor, as having a greater power to save us than simple rote acts of obedience and compliance. The Lord did not list all of the 10 commandments and say, well, get out your checklist and follow 1 through 10 every day, and it'll be well with you. No. Love is what will put me on his right hand, along with the rest. Remember that the 10 commandments, each of those 10, by the way, is an expression of love. Treating others with compassion and love will bring us to inherit the greatest of all of God's gifts, because loving each other is loving him. I believe that when we die, brothers and sisters, we will be brought to an environment of love, where we will in love see our lives through the experiences of others. All that we did and said to other people, we will be brought to see it and feel it, either their joy or their pain because of us. Therefore, mercy, compassion, forgiveness, and kindness in truth are the most important things you and I can do today. I would like to conclude with a simple story of illustrating what that kind of love looks like with a personal experience that happened to me a few years back. I was traveling alone to Salt Lake City. This is when I was working on the Joseph Smith papers. All of a sudden, between Pocatello and McCammon, I was struck with the familiar stabbing pain in my back. It was severe. It was a kidney stone. I knew it. I'd gone through it before. And I also knew I was in trouble. The pain was unbearable. And I was 25 miles from the nearest hospital, more than 50 miles from home, and way too far out of Salt Lake to even think about going on. So I turned around and started back to get help. I made it to the hospital in Pocatello, barely holding on to consciousness. In the emergency room, they ran tests, and it was confirmed that indeed I did have a kidney stone. But then the doctor blew me away by saying, and you also have pneumonia. Well, I got out of the hospital, I went home, and the next few days were a blur. I still can't remember being that sick in over 30 years. And it wasn't getting any better. I sank lower and lower, weaker and weaker until I couldn't even get up. One day, as I lay there on the front room couch, sick, fogged with fever, I felt something cool touch my forehead. I opened my tear-filled eyes, and I saw my 7-year-old son, Adam, standing over me with his hand on my forehead and a very serious expression on his little face. Oh, what was he doing? He was checking my temperature. Did he know what he was doing? Probably not, but he'd seen others do it, and he knew that this was something you did for sick people. As my illness progressed and deepened, he came and checked my temperature often. When I needed medications, he'd fetch them. And then when all else failed to make me well, he came in and, filled with concern, laid down beside me, wrapped his arms around me, and said, "I love you, Dad." I laid there and I wept. Tears not of pain, but of gratitude. I will never forget that kindness. It didn't heal my body, but it lifted my spirits. And to me, at the time, that's what mattered the most. Now, my dear friends, those are the actions of those who are found on the Lord's right hand of favor at the very end. There are enough and plenty of goats in this world, influencers that are always stirring up hate, contention, bickering, and who knows what else. We don't need any more goats in society trying to emotionally or politically headbutt us. Off with them. Blessed are the peacemakers. I really wonder sometimes if the Lord cares as much about what we say and do in church on Sunday as what we say and do at home and in the world the rest of the week. You decide. Good night, and God